The most important document of the modern world got a 2-word review. Vague but exciting. And then it almost went in a drawer. You are reading this on the thing that document became. But in 1989 it was just a memo written by a quiet British engineer at a physics lab, handed to a manager who was not sure what he was looking at. I am going to tell you how the web was born, but I am also going to argue something that sounds wrong. The web did not win because it was brilliant. By the standards of its time, the technology was almost crude. It won because of one decision that had nothing to do with code. Let me set the stage. The man is Tim Berners Lee. The place is CERN, the giant particle physics laboratory near Geneva. CERN had thousands of scientists, thousands of computers, and a constant problem. Information lived in scattered systems that could not talk to each other. People left and their knowledge walked out the door with them. In March 1989, Berners Lee wrote a proposal to fix this. He called it Information Management, a proposal. His boss, a physicist named Mike Sandel, read it and wrote 4 words across the top. Vague but exciting. He did not fund it outright, but he did something better. He let Tim buy a sleek black Next computer and quietly gave him room to build. A colleague named Robert Caillou believed in it too and helped him sharpen the pitch. On that machine, Tim later taped a small note that read, "This is a server, do not power it down." It was the first web server on Earth, and somebody could have switched it off by accident. Now one thing has to be clear, because people get it wrong constantly. The web is not the internet. The internet, the cables and the TCP/IP rules that move data between machines already existed. It had existed for years. The web is something that runs on top of it. Berners Lee did not invent the internet, and he did not invent hypertext either. The idea of linked documents goes back to thinkers like Vannevar Bush, Ted Nelson, and Douglas Engelbart decades earlier. What he did was simpler and somehow bigger. He glued the pieces together so plainly that anyone could use them. He built 3 small things: HTML, a plain way to write a page; HTTP, a plain way to ask for a page; and the URL, a plain address so any page could point to any other page. He wrote the first browser, which was also an editor, and called it World Wide Web. He set up that first server, and in 1991, the first website went live at a CERN address, info.cern.ch. The page explained, fittingly, what the web was and how to make your own. Now here is where my argument bites. Berners Lee was not alone. There were rival systems, and some were arguably better engineered. The big one was Gopher, out of the University of Minnesota. Gopher was clean, fast, and tidy. For a while it was winning. Plenty of hypertext purists looked at the web and thought it was a toy. Then, in early 1993, Minnesota made a decision. They announced they would charge licensing fees to companies using Gopher. Just a hint that you might have to pay, that someone owned the thing, and the trust evaporated. Developers do not build their lives on land that can be fenced off later. People fled. And CERN did the exact opposite. On the 30th of April 1993, CERN signed a document releasing the web into the public domain. No patent, no license fee, no owner. Anyone could build a browser, run a server, or start a company on it, and never ask permission and never pay a cent. Berners Lee pushed for this on purpose. He could have been a billionaire many times over. He chose to let go. That is the whole story, compressed. Free and open beat better and owned. The web was not the best hypertext system on paper. It was the one nobody had to ask to use. Imagine a version where he patented it, where every click owed a toll, where you needed a license just to make a page. It would have stayed a clever tool for physicists, locked behind a fee. Instead, it became the common ground of the whole planet. The trillion-dollar decision was the decision not to own it. So think about that the next time you click a link. Every link is a tiny act of the same generosity that started it all. A page pointing freely at another page, asking nothing in return, owned by no one. Do the web a small favor and keep it moving. If this gave you something, pass this page on. Like it, share it, and soccer, so the next idea worth spreading finds its way to the next person. Because the open web only stays open if we keep passing it on.